The Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement is the biggest trade deal our country has seen since NAFTA. With 12 participating countries, it encompasses 40% of the world's gross domestic product. So we have to get it right. Working men and women in our communities are counting on us to get it right, not just fast. And that's why I oppose granting fast-track authority. You can see the impact of fast-track trade agreements in communities across the country in the loss of hundreds of thousands of jobs, factory jobs, middle-class jobs, and in lower wages for hardworking Americans. In fact, the Economic Policy Institute estimates that since NAFTA, the U.S. has lost more than 700,000 jobs as production has moved to Mexico. And the communities I represent in south-central Wisconsin bear the scars of past trade agreements which have not lived up to what the supporters say for fast track. Take Janesville, Wisconsin. Parker Penn has been in Janesville, Wisconsin and employed at one time over 1,000 workers. And thanks to bad trade deals, in 2009, the remaining 150 jobs were shipped to Mexico. And we're not just talking the last few years, we're talking the last few months. In Darlington, Wisconsin, Merkel Korf Industries plant in Darlington, a town of 2,400 people, announced they are closing. 36 family-supporting jobs are leaving that community. If that were proportional in Madison, Wisconsin, that'd be like losing 3,600 jobs in a community that size. And every time an American job is shipped out of the country, it pushes wages down for workers here. Now, fast-track authority means that the American people, through their elected representatives, will lose their voice in Congress by limiting the ability of Congress to debate and to amend the trade agreement. Due to limited debate, because of the fast-track process, each member would have a little over 2 minutes to debate that trade deal. Members would have no opportunity to offer amendments on an agreement that has 29 chapters that covers everything from food safety to environmental standards, labor rights, intellectual property, and more. And it would give Congress's constitutional authority to the President for 6 years. That means this President, the next President, and potentially the next President. And all Congress would be left with is a yes or no vote. Before Congress grants fast-track authority, we need to get the Trans-Pacific Partnership right. And what does it mean to get it right? Well, one, it means having strong enforcement language to protect American workers and our environment, which we don't currently have in the current deal. Now, on several occasions, I've reviewed the labor and environmental chapters of the law. And while in some instances the language is marginally better, it still lacks enforcement. With the Colombian Free Trade Agreement, we can see exactly what happened. While language has been implemented in the law to protect labor rights, there's been absolutely no implementation of that language. In fact, in the 4 years since the Colombian Free Trade Agreement has passed, 105 union organizers have been killed, murdered in that country. And the environmental chapter, I would argue, is arguably worse and still lacks the same enforcement capacity to protect our country. Getting TPP right means scrapping the investment state dispute settlement provisions that put corporate interests ahead of American sovereignty. The ISDS provisions are unique. They create a tribunal run by the same corporate trade lawyers who on Monday represent the multinational corporations, on Tuesday are supposed to be the fair arbitrators of the law, and on Wednesday are back on the corporate payroll. But these provisions are only for multinational corporations and not for American small businesses, for labor or environmental violations. Getting the Trans-Pacific Partnership right means having other important provisions included, like currency manipulation, protections against human trafficking, and protections for human rights for LGBT individuals and for single mothers in countries that have implemented Sharia law. Getting the Trans-Pacific Partnership right means having an open and transparent negotiations because there's still too much the American people don't know about this secretive agreement. After all, only about 600 people have been involved in drafting this agreement, largely corporate CEOs, but not you and not me. The bottom line is that this will cost jobs and wages. Another bad trade deal will cost more American jobs and lower our wages. We've seen how free trade agreements like NAFTA, CAFTA, and the Korean Free Trade Agreement, passed using the same fast-track process, have turned out to be a bad deal for American workers. We need to get this right, not just fast. Congress must say no to the fast-track process. I yield my